Your baby's close to you. There's someone out there.
What's up, Mob Crew? I'm Chris, and today's missing person case is Don. Also, today's person of interest is Olivia. Today's missing person case is Courtney.
Police, what's going on 515th Street? What's going on down there? We have a kidnapping. Alright, please, Frank.
Hello? Oh, nothing more creepier than a freaking shaft. Hello? What's up, everybody? Welcome to the stream. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I am Chris with Monsters Under Our Bed. I cover murder, mystery to the paranormal, and in all my cases, I like to feature missing person cases. Today, we're going to be talking about the Dylan Rounds case. We went out there this last Saturday looking. We went out there with the drone, and we had a goal in mind to cover the area where his cell phone had last pinged, because that's one of the areas we didn't get to search, because we went out there the first 2 weeks, and then after that, they didn't want anybody going out to Lucin, so we kind of went out to different areas. But now that everything's kind of calmed down, we figured we'd like to go back out there and scan that area. And then also we flew a couple of flights over the grain shed. And so we're going to look at the grain shed from when the Diesel brothers went out there, which was the first week Dylan went missing, and then our drone footage, and see the differences. And so there is definitely some differences, and we'll kind of go over that. We have a special guest, Steve with True Crime Web. So let me bring him along here. Hey, Steve, how you doing, buddy?
Doing fine, sir. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure to have you on. So before we get started real quick, let's feature the missing, and then we'll start talking about this case. And so here we've got Michael Joseph Vaughn, a.k.a. Monkey, last seen last year on July 27th. Blonde hair, blue eyes. Let's see. So they're looking for a white Honda Pilot seen in Fruitland, Idaho. There is a $50,000 reward. This one says, so over $50,000 reward. And you've been kind of following this case as well, Steve? You kind of...
Absolutely. It's a chance that we rarely get in the true crime world, where we have a chance that we can bring a child back. And there's, indicators that the child is possibly still alive, and we have to do everything we can to bring his child home.
Yeah. So, $50,000 reward. Hopefully we can bring him home. Just over a year. So he was 5 years old when he went missing. So now he would be 6 years old. So let's hope, pray for his safe return. Then we have Brian Vladic Hazel, went missing in East Orlando. He was 22 when he went missing, would be 23 now. Blondish brown hair with blue eyes. Was last seen at an apartment complex in East Orlando on November 15th of last year. So anybody in Orlando or near Florida, keep an eye out for Brian. And then always when we talk about Dylan Rounds, I like to mention Aiden Clune, who went missing a month prior to Dylan Rounds on April 27th in Curry, Nevada, which is about 50 miles south of Wells. There is also a $5,000 reward for his safe return, or for tips on his whereabouts. So that's it for the missing. So let's see. For those might be, I'm pretty sure most of you guys are familiar with the Dylan Rounds, but I thought we would just touch on the timeline here. And so I'm going to use, this is not the most accurate, but we'll use this Missing in America one here. I did see they did update a few things, which is good. But so actually use mine and then we'll go over. So here is at the end of May. The first incident is with Chase on that Wednesday, the 25th, where he supposedly stumbles out of the desert with no shoes. Chase in the text says that he did have shoes on and he just got a ride from Dylan. He charged his phone. There's been conflicting reports that Dylan either gave him a ride back to Montello or nearby Montello, I think like south of it. Either way, he gave Chase a ride that Wednesday. Then the following day, Thursday, was the last time his debit card was officially used at the Saddle Soar, and he was seen on the 26th. Then we jump to Saturday, which is the day that's most likely something had happened to Dylan. He calls his grandmother at 6:51 a.m. It's a brief call. He's saying that he has to put the grain truck inside because it's going to rain that day and over the weekend. And then the next day, no one hears from Dylan. The family kind of gets in touch with Dawn, a family friend. Jim, who's also kind of the guy that looks over the property of the grain shed. Apparently, they look for Dylan on Sunday. And then on Monday, the parents arrive. They can't find Dylan. And then on Tuesday, there is a phone call that the family gets. Now, it's by a Kurt Wadsworth. Kurt claims that he got this from like second, third hand, where he was told by a psychic that Dylan was being held hostage by Robert Aviles in the town of Montello. And so the family goes out there, also brings out the authorities, and Dylan was, they searched the house and Dylan wasn't there. What's interesting that we learned in the last week or so is there was a leaked report that the key fob, which to Dylan's truck, was actually returned on that Tuesday. I don't know. Did you hear about that, Steve?
Yes, I was watching your show the other night when y'all were recovering.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And,
what do you think about that?
Let me tell you, it most certainly that, either they missed it or they didn't miss it. If they didn't miss it and it's been returned, then it had to be someone that was in the area that either they pre-planned that farce or someone just took the opportunity of that. Mm-hmm. And I really don't know why you wouldn't just throw it away like you suggested. Why wouldn't you just go somewhere and toss it? And,
yeah, that's what I would think. I mean, you just go toss it in a fast food garbage and it never see the light of day again.
Yeah. And so most certainly there's no difference about where the DNA. I mean, if anyone else has handled that key fob, they're in a world of hurt unless they cleaned it. I mean, there's some technologies out there now that, and as it goes through the lab, that's going to be one of the most highest analyzed and DNA swabbed and vacuumed items on the planet.
Yeah. I see a question in here. So that's a very good question for those that may not know Brenner's. So, or oops, I'm sorry. Sorry, True Crime. I just missed it. Where was it? Anyway, I missed it. My apologies. But anyway, someone asked if Brenner was in jail. No, Brenner was not. Chase and Brenner wouldn't be, because Brenner was actually taken in, I think that first, I don't know, I have to go back on my notes, either the first or second week, but was released like the same day, and then wasn't officially like taken in until the end of July. But no, Brenner was still there because Brenner was complaining about them being stationed at the grain shed location, because that's kind of where they had their base at. So let's play the new drone footage with the mix of the combination of two and kind of point out some things that we've noticed that have changed. So let me close that one there. So what we're looking at is the Diesel Brothers footage of the grain shed. So this would have been, I forget exactly which day. They were there sometime between Wednesday and Friday, I believe, of that first week Dylan was missing. So this would have been somewhere between 4 to 6 days Dylan had been missing. So not long. And so here they're got the helicopter footage flying over. We see the grain truck is pulled out here. The blue truck, I'm not sure. That might be maybe one of the family's blue trucks here. And then here's our footage that we got. Let me get caught up here. And then you want me to stop at 155, correct?
Yes, between 155 and 157, if you could.
Okay. And then we'll probably talk about the hole at the end of your stuff that I pointed out. The hole that's in front of this machinery here. Okay. Yes. We'll save that for the end. Yeah, there's a few things that have changed. One thing I noticed is wherever there's like a hole, like as you can see where the ditch is, you'll notice that shrubs have came in. It's almost like shrubs kind of give you an idea of where stuff's been tampered with, if that makes sense. Does that make sense, Steve? Like where, because you'll notice that you got all the shrubs in here. Let me quickly get this real quick. What's up, Tom? And good evening, Mob Crew. I hope all is well in the True Crime world. Keep up the great work. Enjoyed your last show, Steve. Thank you. Awesome. Thanks so much for the $10 and your support. So, so keep that in mind with the shrubs, because I do notice there's some commonalities with the shrubs. So right here, you don't really see the shrubs as much in the first when Diesel Brothers was out there. Now the shrubs have kind of overtaken this ditch here. And one of the things that I had seen is when we went out there on week 2, which is when FBI showed up, is they were doing a grid search from about here to all the way over here. And I've noticed that it looks like they've done some stuff over here. So you have it at 155. Let me skip it to 155 here. Okay, so now we're looking at it from the south here. Most of the equipment's stayed the same. The only thing that's really been taken is the grain shed or the grain truck, the 10-wheeler. So you can see there's no grain truck, there's no 10-wheeler, and then obviously they took Brenner's trailer, which would have been parked right here. Everything else is exactly like nothing has moved. Everything is in the same exact location from what I've researched so far. Except for this little camper's got its door wide open. But all the cars are parked exactly the same. They're all still facing the same location. But yep, just missing the 10-wheeler and the grain truck, and then this blue truck, which I'm assuming is just probably the family when they were out there with the Diesel brothers. Okay, I just missed yours. Okay, I'm sorry, Steve. Okay, 155, you said?
Yeah, 155, 157, right there would be fine.
Okay, cool.
With your cursor, if you'll go up there and show them where the grain shed is, and then show them where the mound is.
So grain shed is here. The mound where they found the boots would be right here. The mound, I would assume, is about 4 to 5 feet tall, somewhere in there.
Yes. Today, while I was doing some work on my show for Saturday about Michael, and I was doing some post-offender behavior research and doing all the angles of it, is when you called me and texted me and sent me this footage. And with that being in mind, when I saw this footage and I got to this, the post-offender behavior hit me like a sack of bricks. I said, oh, okay, that makes sense. It's strange how you're working on an abduction of a 5-year-old child, and then while you have that mindset, you bring up a older, young, but still a child, Dylan's case, and
No way.
and it just connects in your head. But when I saw this, I said, well, looking at for post-offender behavior, that seeing the footage y'all made and took, and seeing how flat it was, and as we discussed pre-show, that you can see people. How far was it that you could see those people? It was 3,600 feet easily from the fence to the grain shed.
Yeah, almost a full mile, 3/4 of a mile.
Yeah, and so if you had, say, an offender committed a crime such as a murder or otherwise, when they have such a offense occurs, first thought in their head is that, what happens if someone comes up, and where can I conceal someone? So you have to look, what would that post-offender behavior be, and where would you hide something? Either you have to have a hole, or you have to have some type of obstruction in line of view that obstructs that line of view. And where would that be? That would be that mound. And then we have the supporting evidence that the shoes were found on the backside of that mound, or the boots from Dylan. And so I said, well, that explains, because Occam Razor, tells us that usually the simplest
Thank you.
theory is the correct one, whatever it points to. And so applying those rules and looking at that form, that if you had an offender that committed a crime and had hurt Dylan, killed Dylan, where would be the first place they'd place him? And like I said, because at that time that the crime's committed, if they had his phone or looked at it and they said, oh, he's made a phone call prior to this, is there other family members in town? Are they on their way to the barn and to pick him up? We don't know what the conversation is. The offender may not either. And so he has to do a separation of the crime scene and the body in case someone does show up, and where it can't be seen through line of sight because it's extremely flat. The view is, unobstructed for hundreds of yards. And so until we can, if you envision yourself as a criminal and you had to separate yourself with something in a proximity, what would be the closest point, until you can plan how you will follow up and do a secondary disposal.
Right.
And once again, on the secondary, it being so flat, you just can't set out there with a piece of machinery on the skyline that can be seen for thousands of yards. And so you have to go below level. And so is that a ravine, or is that some of the places that y'all have been searching where you spent all that drone footage? And that's the logical thing that a criminal that committed such an offense would do. And so we have to approach it from that angle, or I would from my investigative history.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, that totally makes sense. Basically, Steve is saying that it's a possibility that Brenner assuming, he is the main suspect right now. He could have had help for sure. He could have maybe,
or it could be a different offender. It does, it's whoever hurt him there that would explain that. I mean, it can be several offenders, but most certainly Brenner being on the property, he's the lead one.
Yeah. So, it's most likely he kind of panicked. Maybe Dylan's already wounded or possibly dead, unfortunately, and he panicked and put the body behind the mound for right now to hide it. And what Steve is saying, and I'll just switch over to this real quick. This was us during. Oh, the pause button's right where I can't stream here. Oh, there we go. I can move it. So this was us when FBI just got there like a day or two before us. This was week 2 of him missing. And we are literally almost a full mile away from the grain shed. And you can actually see these little heads. It's really probably hard, especially on cell phone. But where my mouse is at, there's about 6 or 8 bodies. They're walking away from us. And they're basically arm's length away from each other. And they're basically doing a grid pattern. And we'd seen them all the way stretched out from this piece of equipment here all the way to this. This is actually, I think, the boat right here from what we can see. But what Steve is saying is it's just basically flat. And so to hide something, you really don't have much out there. You have the mound, which is about 4 to 5 feet tall. And obviously, other than the grain shed, except if I don't know how much room's in the shop itself. And then just to look to see, show you guys. So there's the mound. I mean, that's looking at it from almost a full mile away, just to kind of give you an idea of I would say a good 4 feet tall, maybe a little bit more. So going back to, and then 338. So we'll just kind of let this play out. There's definitely a lot more tracks as well, I've noticed, that go from out to that mound as well. That could be search and rescue. And then this is that area here that I think that they were doing something, and we can kind of go over that when we get a second. Here, Steve. We'll let this play. Oh my gosh, Tom. Thank you so much, buddy. Gas money for the next trip. Thanks for all you do. Something tells me there is one involved in the disappearance, but I feel like he had some help covering this up. I've always wondered on this case if they know exactly when he came up missing. Thank you so much, Tom, for the $50. Please show Tom some love in the chat. He is so amazing. Very passionate guy.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, buddy.
You deserve it. You've done a lot for this case, sir.
I appreciate it. I couldn't do it without you guys. So we're going to get to two of the things that look like where they'd been doing some kind of testing as far as the FBI. So we get to your spot here. What I got? You have 338, and I just passed it.
That's right. It's just the opposite angle from almost like where the grain shed is, looking the other way. And I wanted to do that cross reference where you can see that if you place something behind it, such as a person or the boots, that it was used for the fact that it concealed it.
Yeah, and I think I zoom in. Oh, yeah. So here I zoom in on it right after this, just to kind of give you a better look at it. Unfortunately, this is when the wind was at its worst, and it was just getting worse. There was just dust devils galore just all around us, and we were lucky to get this footage without losing the drone. It was easily 35, 40 mile winds. So should we talk about the hole and then we'll go over to this area last?
Just wherever you want to go. I'm with you.
Okay. All right. So this is something that and we'll come back to this here. There's something that I discovered just about an hour before we started the show. Where's it at? Here. Okay. So if we look right here, this is the Diesel Brothers footage from the first week. We've got this machine right here. It looks like it's pretty flat, maybe some shrubs right here, but don't look like there's a hole. And if we look, this is the same machinery, and now we've got a hole that is there. And then if we do a side-by-side, and you can clearly tell that this is, even if there was maybe something right there, this is way bigger. I mean, it's as big as this, as far as
in the bottom of that
footage.
depression, there's where you can see a change in the texture and the color of the dirt. It's a little bit darker. Looks like it's been mound up. It's squared, which all shows or indicators of a almost like an archaeological dig of where you could go in there and grid map it out if you found something inside that the parameters of what you were searching. And so you could mark it properly, collect it for evidence so it'd be presented in court.
Interesting. Yeah. Because I was just trying to find everything that might look a little bit different, but this clearly stands out. You can actually
Then
see.
just to the 3 o'clock position of there, come to your, there's another area that had similar, right, just in between, just right to the right of that, right there. That had a little bit of different soil color too. I looked at earlier.
Interesting. Yeah, we'll have to go back to it. Yeah, you can see where the tires are here, or I think those are tires. I could be wrong, but because there are a bunch of tires kind of laying out randomly here. But yeah, it definitely looks like maybe did Brenner attempt to bury something right here? Because it almost looks like it's like disturbed dirt. I know this is not the best quality, but clearly it's not a hole. And you can actually see where there's, where they shoveled out the dirt. You don't really have that right here. So you think that with the square, that's something that, because, we heard that they did soil tests.
Yes. Yeah. Whenever you mark and then you don't know what you're going to find as if you're out there if you bring in the dogs, and certain type of dogs have certain skill sets and they're looking for certain, either cadaver or, and there's dogs can be trained in recovering anything from weapons to bombs to you name it. Dogs are extremely versatile tool. And then you use either ground penetrating radar or you use metal detectors that, of course, if they see a disturbance down there and they seen that the soil has been, disturbed, that you may not be able to identify certain objects or until you get in there. And as you progress and as you take that soil off inch by inch and across large area, that when you do hit something, you have to be able to identify and map it where you got it from a known position, which is normally one of the corners. And then you pull straight strings and then you mark and, you just cross-reference it out. And that way you have it, whereas you can find stuff. And they do a lot of that whenever they recover bones and things and so that they can rebuild. And, it's just processing a crime scene.
Interesting. Tom Ann says, I think I love about your channel is 90% information and analysis. Too many channels discuss politics or get 4 people on at a time. You can't follow anything they do. 2 at a time. Perfect. Yeah, you get a lot of channels that do. They get like 9 people on panel, and I don't know how they do it. That's tough. When I have like 3, when I go on like Grizzly's channel, sometimes she has like 3 or 4 people on, and that's tough. I don't know when to talk, and it's tough. Thank you so much for the $10. So clearly they dug something up here, just from what I've looked at. And then the other area, it's a little bit harder to tell, but this is where they were doing their grid search. And you can kind of see, and we'll go back to the video here, where it's been kind of like raked over. No, that's pull it back up here. Let's see. Yeah, so this area here, where I think maybe something was of interest to them. And as you can see, there's like some shrubbery now that's there. And if we look at the, okay, so there went best. There's probably the best view right there.
Mm-hmm. You see
So
a
what do you
long
think?
rectangle. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. What were you saying?
Oh, I just said you can see where it's a long rectangle of something. Looks like the disturbance of the topsoil that changes color from the surrounding area.
Right. And so we heard that they were doing some ground penetrating sonar, and then taking soil samples. So it looks like they've this was an area of interest to them. And then clearly whatever was in front of this, what is this piece of machinery right here? I apologize. I'm not a farmer.
It's just some big tractor.
Big tractor. Okay. Sounds good to me. No offense to farmers. Much respect.
Yeah, I don't know what model it is, but it's made to pull something heavy.
Yeah. So clearly there's some activity that's gone on, which I think is interesting. If, you got, this is right in front of where they pulled out the grain truck here. Could have somebody pulled up, maybe parked right here, and then maybe this is where the first incident went down. Maybe.
There had to be some reason for them. If you said you saw them shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah.
It looked like they were doing something in the movements, and they were being very linear as they progressed. And they were looking for something. I don't know how many metal detectors were there, if they was just doing a eye search or whatever. But there's a lot of reasons that most certainly that there's something that had caught their attention that they had to process that area.
Yeah. Let's see. And play that just a little bit. And then just taking a look at the differences between the, notice that there's more tracks. Let's see. Oh, yeah, right here. So here we've got the grain shed, and I kind of did before and after, and I kind of let it. Unfortunately, it's not perfectly lined up because they flew over one specific direction. Nick was flying, and unfortunately, he was battling the wind and was lucky to get what he got. But you'll notice that there's a lot more tracks that show up afterwards, which I'm sure most, if not all, maybe.
That's interesting also.
That's what I was thinking. I mean, I get probably most of them are search and rescue. It's a little weird that they would drive near that area if they know that's kind of like the crime,
Well, it depends on what type of equipment that they may have now. That there may have been some that they went over the whole area with some type of wide or ground penetrating radar equipment, and they may have grid it out off the back of a vehicle or some type of four-wheelers or whatever the markings, as they did a grid search on that also with ground penetrating radar. But there's because I saw some of the tracks going across there. They looked like they were almost equal distance separating them.
Yeah. So like yep. There's one though that's interesting that was there on the original one. Yeah, let's see if I can. right there. So what's interesting is you've got these two tracks. Let me jump back over to this one, see if I got a better angle at it. Okay, right here.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. You see them going across,
Yeah.
and then the ones to the left. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's almost either these two meet up or, but I definitely find that kind of interesting. And the reason why I find these particular two tracks interesting is his cell
What's out
phone
there?
ping.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, you had that direction. That's where his cell phone ping is. So if we just quickly take a peek at the Google Maps here. So we're looking at some tracks that basically run along about right here. And if we just basically head that way, we end up, and we'll kind of zoom out so you get the idea. That basically takes us in the direction of the last cell phone ping.
How far is that from the grain shed to that pin?
I know I've done this. I think it's just under 2 miles.
Okay.
I should know this by heart. I've done this so many times. Everybody's curious about that.
What's the terrain like? I mean, is it something that you can drive a truck across, or is it 4-wheeler or tractors? Or
I can show you. You ATV easy, truck more than likely you'd have to kind of be careful. Some of these areas are a little bit more hilly. But for the most part, yeah, you should ATV and truck should be no problem. Anything that's kind of got high clearance.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, let me just kind of, somewhere up here would be a little bit, but this would be probably the lowest point.
Yeah, I would be looking for an area that you couldn't see from any roadway that take you below ground eyesight from ground level. Is of course, from the mindset of someone that had committed a crime that wanted to be out of view, that's where they would go.
Yeah, what's interesting is where this bend is, where the cell phone ping, and of course this is just approximate, but this is where they say, south of the tracks, across from the bend in the road. And so this is where we flew. We also took the metal detector, and we're still waiting for the results on that. So, because that takes a while, of course.
Could you be seen from the road in that ravine there, or not?
No.
Okay.
You would be able to, and let me show you what that's like, and then we'll talk about there's some other new developments as well. Walk to phone ping. So this would be where the phone ping's at. I'm just going to kind of move forward here. So right now we're kind of walking towards the grain shed. We're walking west, kind of. So I'm just kind of scanning the ground, of course. And I'm going to look back at my car. Once you get over this little ridge right here, so let's see. I know I look back at my car real quick here. Sorry, I'm like carrying the metal detector and all this stuff, so I had to kind of like reevaluate. So there's Nick. The bend in the road is, see these the telephone poles? They'd be right by where the road's at. And then if you just keep going, so if I turned around, and if you kept going just about another 30, 40 yards, it'll drop you down into, so this right here, as you can see, kind of slopes up a little bit, and then you're going to drop down into a little ravine.
Just over that horizon there?
Yep,
Okay. Yeah, that's, like I said, if you're with something that you don't want to be discovered with, you're going to get out of line of sight.
Oh, did I miss a donation? Brenner is going to be hard to get on DNA, being that he had access to most of Dylan's belongings. They'd have to find Dylan or get a confession from whoever's responsible. Yeah, that's a great analysis. Yeah, because he's kind of working with Dylan, touching the same stuff as Dylan. The defense attorney could easily explain a lot of, even the truck, if Dylan's bringing the truck, and if Dylan went, who knows if Jim went for rides in Dylan's truck, for sure. How far is the Bar-O Ranch from there? Are you talking about the Saddle Sore Bar? I'm not sure. Bar-O. Let me write that down. Let me know if you're talking about the Cowboy Bar or the. I've never heard the Bar-O Ranch. Interesting. So yeah, let's touch on this newer information, and then we'll jump over to the tracks. So here was some documents released a little over a week ago. So this is a request for discovery. And what we got highlighted here is it looks like James Brenner consented to a polygraph, as well as Don Hatley, which Jim and Don. Don, lives about kind of north of the grain shed, the shop location. And then FBI's got polygraph exams. Anything in here that sticks out to you that you could explain that maybe
we have two sets of polygraph examinations, and I don't know if those are two independent polygraphs or I see is there more that says how many exams were made? I know we have two consent forms. Uh-huh. Well, okay, that's from two different individuals. Okay.
Yeah.
So
let's jump over and if we want to come back to that.
Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to see it.
So this is the second page of this. So this says Maine State PD priors regarding Brenner. Then we got photographs. We've got Dylan Round's rental property, January 28th. Now these are all photographs. We've got a Walmart receipt and product. And then we also have this Walmart surveillance stills, which would be April 9th, which would be about a month and a half before he went missing. Now, when we were asking the chat what they thought about what Brenner could have bought at the Walmart, my assumption would be cell phone. A lot of people think ammo and guns.
No, I think it tells you in the verbiage down there exactly what it was.
I don't think so.
It says electronic evidence.
Let's see. Let's read it. Okay, so United States may seek to use all physical evidence, statements made by the defendant and others, police reports, phone records,
electronic evidence,
including body camera footage, documents, and photographs obtained during the investigation. The United States reserves the right to introduce in its case in chief all tangible objects, physical, documentary, and electronic evidence, and all evidence provided, made available, or identified in discovery. Oh, you're right. So that is phone records, electronic evidence
from the phone records. And where do you get phone records? And what creates phone records is in the Walmart.
Wow. Yeah, because a lot of people, I think the biggest guess would be ammo, but I was just doing some research.
You don't need the police phones. You just need what he bought at Walmart and surveillance still. And so to me, that's what that means.
Interesting. I agree because ammo, so here in Utah. So let me just show you guys the two nearest stores to Brenner. Let's see. There we go. So looking up the nearest Walmarts. So here is Lucin, which, is kind of kitty right across from Montello. So the two nearest Walmarts would be this one in Tooele. I think the closest one or the fastest would be the one in Elko, Nevada. And then you've also got one up here in North Ogden. But I can tell you in Utah, the only bullets they sell is pellets for airsoft guns. They definitely don't sell guns. And I don't think they sell even 9mm hand, at least in Utah. And then when I was looking in online, let me go back at the Walmart. As you can see, I'm in the Elko store here, and I've got it selected in store. And there's nothing. You've got cleaner, but you just got BBs and pellets. So and no guns.
A lot of people may not understand what those records indicate, that the defense is and the court saying that in ordering the prosecution that you're going to release all the information that you have. That's what they requested. And what evidence do you have against that client for any type of crime that may come up in the future? And because attorneys and certain trials and statements made, but if there had to be something at Walmart that interested law enforcement to do with this investigation, and they seized it, and the attorney that's representing Brenner was wanting to know exactly what he was going to be facing as he as the court dates start approaching. And they'll release that information, the transcripts, and also all the items. But I think it was a phone record, or well, you would need phone records from a phone. And why would you mention that in this unless you was hunting the data that law enforcement had?
Yeah, and I think this, because Brenner seems like the type that's not going to be getting a Verizon phone. He's just going to go to Walmart and get, your Simple Talk, I think, Simple Plan. I forget I think that's what it's called, Simple Plan at Walmart. But sounds like, for $50 you get a phone and, some minutes or whatever. That seems kind of like what Brenner would probably get. And this goes back to the forensic data that they supposedly have on James Brenner.
Yeah, the pings, if they parallel anyone, everyone that, had that's within a certain distance, of course, that data is going to be cross-referenced out. And, if his phone data parallels Dylan's phone data, he's going to have to explain how long and why they were together at certain times, which may just be simple that they both, own the property at the same time. But, if his phone pinged over in the ravine at 3 something or wherever, that may be a big issue for him.
Yeah. Someone sent a comment. That's a good question. Oops, it went by kind of fast. See if I can find it. That isn't this about the gun charges though? So I don't think. What do you think? I don't think it is, because
it could, and it could be both ways. I mean, we don't know what all this attorney, is representing him for, and what as they prepare for the future things, because they know he's been named a suspect,
right?
And most certainly, the attorney will want to know as much as he can about what he's having to face in the future. And it could be as simple as it is just that, but then it could be a far more complex. And when the FBI and everyone names you as a suspect, it's time to find somebody to represent you.
Right. But yeah, I mean, it's going back to the Walmart. Like I said, from what I've searched, and I do know Walmarts do sell I was doing a little bit of research, but they said they like half the Walmarts only sell like ammo and some guns.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's no need to include that you need phone record for a gun charge. You have to have a phone record that. I mean, are they saying that the phone pings collaborates the transfer of the weapons at certain times at certain addresses?
Yeah.
I mean, if that's the angle they're approaching on, then most certainly that may be a possibility. But it could play in several different ways. But, you know, that is it Don that he went and gave the guns to? And if Don said that he brought the guns to me on a certain date and time, and if the phone data corroborates that statement, then that might be what this pertains to.
Sure.
But most certainly, I can tell you law enforcement will use that data of those pings in every level and every charge that they can as the cases progress, if it does turn into a homicide, which is already, you know, they're looking at it as a homicide case.
Yep. And then it says here they've got audio, video, James Brenner interview on June 20th with the polygraph there. And then a transport on July 5th.
But yeah, I find that interesting, that verbiage that they use down there. Like I said, on gun charges, you wouldn't include phone data unless one or two reasons.
Yeah, like I said, I think when they talk about just relating to Dylan and why he's a suspect is, you know, they say physical evidence and forensic data, and that points towards, you know, a phone. So let's switch over to the tracks, which we did get a better look at what those tracks and how big they were. Let's see, where is this one here? So here's us in that wash. And I was telling Steve, when it comes to when we go out, I prepare like the night before. I have like almost everything loaded in the car, water, you know, everything. I'm always just, you know, OCD. I got to have everything just set. And I'm like, I've got to bring a measuring tape. I have to bring a measuring tape. And I put it on the counter in a spot that I would see when we're leaving. And I'll be darned, we leave without it. I was so mad. So, but we got a pretty good idea. What's that?
I said, you're not the first one that's ever been photographing and not have something to measure with.
Yeah. Let me get this real quick. Thank you so much, Melissa, for the $5. Is there a 4-digit number along the word Walmart? Type that in, and I'll give you an exact Walmart address. I will look into that. That's awesome. Yeah, that does work. Thank you. 4-digit number. We'll go back and look at that. Thank you, Melissa. And I missed one from Tom. I think Don may be covering his own butt. Why would Brenner take a potential unknown murder weapon to Don? That's not very smart on Brenner's part. Yeah. You know, they've got their camp set up there at the grain shed. And then, you know, in the interview with Candace, she talks about how Brenner's annoyed that they're there, which seems really, you know, suspicious. I mean, why would you be annoyed when you've got a teenager missing? I think it kind of shows.
I know why I would be annoyed if I.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you've done something bad, you'd be annoyed.
Yeah. So here, what Nick realizes how wide just what are those things called that go in? That are
Pads. Those are, you got pads for the tracks.
Yeah, he said like grouse, some G word. Of course, I can't remember it, but yeah, he noticed that those are so thick that most likely some kind of traco. But these tracks,
Mm-hmm.
I use my foot, and as a matter of fact, when you just see Nick step, oops, sorry, oh jeez, wait for Nick to step across it here. So that's how wide it is. And we figured that was somewhere about 16, 18 inches. So, and that's just one track. So, is most likely from some kind of trackhoe or bulldozer. But this,
Like we were discussing, though, it's not a good vehicle to use in rescues because of the volume, noise decibels that you're not going to be able to hear anyone talk to them or anything during a search.
yeah. And then, of course, we did find some shell casings, but don't be alarmed. It's that's something common, especially in the wash, because the wash is a good place to use as like a backdrop. Because when you're shooting, the bullets will just go right into the dirt, and you don't have to worry about the bullets flying and hitting somebody. But we did find some AR ammo, which we did not touch. We just documented and let search and rescue know if they need to go back and recover it. And then we also found some 9mm, which why I think these particular rounds are probably just an innocent explanation of some guys just going out and shooting in the wash there. Yeah, let's see, where are they here? Oh yeah, he came across some more here. But yep, we got some 9mm rounds here. But usually, let me see if I can get a good view. So basically, you would have somebody probably standing on one side. You'd put your target up against the wash here. That way you can shoot the target, and you don't have to worry about the bullet penetrating through and hitting somebody, because it's just going to go into the dirt, stop, and so these are great places to kind of shoot and not worry about hitting, a civilian or something. And then this is some drone footage of the where the cell phone ping was. So this is what it looks like where the last cell phone ping was. What's really tough about this desert, this area, is you see a lot of holes because they're got critters that dig. So, you'll come across a lot of those. Another thing that's really tough is it looks like there's a lot of stuff that's like buried. A lot of the shrubbery. So there's a hole right there. But if we were to pan down, or if I played where I'm actually walking, let's see, do I have myself walking?
Did you ever see any wildlife out there?
No, I had around the Dillons area. No, squirrels. Yes, squirrels love me. Trying to think. Cows. When we kind of went more outside the area. But in this Lucin area, nothing, no wildlife. Obviously, some kind of scavenging birds, but yeah, nothing major. Okay, what was the other thing? I wanted to show you. Before we finish up on this part, though, is there anything else that you would
No.
want to point out on this? For those that might have tuned in and missed the first part, let me just point out this. They clearly... Let's see, I got to find it here. Okay, right there. It's a good spot right there. So this, they clearly did dig out something here. I'm assuming FBI. This wasn't there before. And here, gets us even closer there. And we'll look at the side-by-side just one more time real quick here. So as you can see in the original, you see some kind of what looks to me almost like disturbed dirt, not really a pit. And then here you've got, and what you say is a perfect square kind of what relates to most likely law enforcement had done some kind of
some type of grid search and excavation or archaeological dig to try to map out whatever, like I said, it could have been anything from metal detectors, K9s to some type of radar that said dig here.
Yeah. Just checking the chat here. Everything's going good. Under your scars, Chris, didn't Don delay responding to them asking him to check? Then he left fishing. Lots of time to hide and move a body. Delay responding. Yeah, it's tough because there's been a lot of interviews and a lot of people have said they've, seen certain people doing things, but that's the tough thing about doing all these interviews. It's good on one hand, but at the other hand, it's kind of a double-edged sword because you don't know what's the truth and what's not. And then you get a lot of people that might take that this interview and what they're saying as facts, and then that kind of gets, and then they bring that to another channel and say, oh, well, I heard that this person said this, and so things start to get twisted. And so it's really tough to kind of I try not to look too much into all the interviews. I do try to, keep up to date with a lot of them, but I can't. But, because there's just tons of them, and it makes it really hard because there's always little things that are changing. A great point of that is during the first, during the second month, when I was talking about that I discovered where the last cell phone ping was. Not that that was something huge, but just it's nice to kind of know where that was at. But that was at 15:41 at 3:51 p.m. But then that all of a sudden got changed. People are saying, well, no, it's now 2:41. And that was because somebody did an interview saying, well, there was a phone call that Dylan made to the property owner on that day. And then that went from that day to the day prior. And then things just kind of got all messed up. And then Candace came out and said, look, this didn't come from a phone call. This came from a cell phone app. So I'm glad that I stuck with this 3:41 because you do get that. That's what's really tough about. I know most people have good intentions, but you really have to kind of be careful. But and then speaking to Don, I mean, like I said, I only heard good things about him. What little I heard was good things, but you can't really judge a book by its cover. And clearly his friend was Jim, but anything that I might have missed that you want to cover, Steve, or talk about on?
No. I mean, you covered it well. Like I said, I was just curious about how far it was and what the terrain was and what line of sight was, because that's probably the most important thing. that once I realized from y'all's footage how flat it was, that you're not going to do anything that's in, criminals always lurk in the shadows and try to stay out of sight as much as possible.
Yeah, let me get caught up on here. If you have any questions for Steve, and then I thought we'd touch on, just because I'm really surprised no one's like talking about it. I think with the Kylie Rodney case, it's still some things are developing there, and of course I will do an update on that. I touched that case for a little bit, but the Delphi case, I mean, with what's going on there is pretty crazy. And blown away that not more people are talking about what is going on. So I thought maybe at the end of this video, we'll touch on that just for a minute and get your thoughts, what, former law enforcement thinks about it.
I'm about as excited about that developments that's occurred recently as about anything.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that I'm really, like I said, it will eventually get traction. I know it will, but I think just with the Kylie Rodney, it just kind of overshadowed. But
of course, I mean, you had a recent case, and you're looking for someone that you could have a positive impact and possibly bring them home alive, and it should override anything and everything that's cold case. And just like with Michael, if you have a chance, that's what you work on.
Yeah. Oh, there's a good question by Jane. And yeah, that's a question I want to ask you. We will get to that in just a second. Tom in. You would think with all our technology, they would have a tracker in these cell phones that has independent battery that stays alive for a few weeks, possibly a small solar panel to keep them charged. So I know in a sense that like Apple, even though like the phone dies, from what I understand, like these newer models, they kind of still have some power and can be tracked. So I'm assuming that is just something that's starting to be developed, that even though the phone says it's dead, it's not really dead. And they've been trying to do that, especially for people that, may need their phone for emergencies. There's kind of like that, even though the phone's dead, sometimes you can still call 911 because it still stores like a little bit of reserve power in those phones for that particular case. Thank you so much, Tom. Steve, I'll pay for the ammo if you do control tests with high caliber rounds for the Brandon Lawson case. Yeah, I'll get with you right after the show. Do you have an AR?
Oh, absolutely. Whatever you need done, don't worry about that. Just we'll get on that case and work whatever you need me to do. I'll do. Don't worry.
Okay.
I have friends that own a lot of ARs.
Okay, that's a great question. Thanks, Tom, so much for the $5. So this is a great question, because I actually wanted to ask you this, get your thoughts on this. So she says, in the charging documents, does Steve know what is meant by Dylan Round's rental property? I have an idea. What do you think?
Well, it most certainly relates to something that Dylan had rented at some point and was using for some purpose, and now is in possession of Mr. Brenner. So, because we're talking about charging Brenner with whatever he's being charged with, and how is it relating? And that has, what does a piece of rental property have to do with a gun violation? And so, it's not going that's just a gun violation. We're looking at things that just don't make sense, and we're looking at a Dylan connection of more than just the gun charges, because you're talking about discovery for an individual that may be in possession of things that belong either through rental agreements or personal property or clothing, or you've got his boots on Brenner's property. You've got a document asking for discovery on rental property that was rented to Dylan. What piece of property was that? I don't know, but it's not looking good.
Yeah, no, great great comment. Goes back to squatting for. Okay, just looking. Yeah, that's a good question. Is the grain shed he was renting? So yeah, I'm not sure the specifics on that, but yeah, because technically that wasn't his property. The property owner's initials are JR. That could relate to that property. Also, property could mean equipment.
Yeah.
Multiple things like what you were just talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what type of rental agreement, or is it that it was a piece of paper. I don't know. It could be so many different things.
Yeah. So it's a photograph of rental property.
Yeah, that's you wouldn't think that would be the grain shed, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I
It's
mean, what
something
is he renting that that Brenner has, or that would bring them together? That'd be interesting once it does come to court. But regardless, you have the introduction of Dylan's name brought into a, that is more than just a gun case now. That, that if you were just talking about these guns and being charged with, you wouldn't have Dylan's name introduced in any shape, form, or fashion into a discovery, unless there was some type of connection.
Larry Rounds. Is it Larry Rounds that owns the Dylan that lives on? I thought it was. Maybe I'm thinking Justin Rounds. That's why I have JR in my head. Yeah, I think you're right. LR. Okay, I believe you're right, Mello. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think you're correct on that. My apologies. Let's see. Is there any more questions before we take a jump over to the other one? I think this is a great statement, Coastal Butterfly. I believe this is about Brenner trying to claim the land, Dylan coming in and improving the land, therefore taking the claim from Brenner. I agree with like 80% of that. My theory kind of lines that, yes, Brenner was possessive and Dylan Rounds. So here's a picture. Where to go? Screenshot. There it is. So this is the infamous gate to the grain shed that apparently there was fights over between Brenner and Dylan. Apparently, Brenner liked to keep this padlocked. Usually when you see these gates, you don't really see a padlock, and you've just got this little barbed wire you put over here, and anybody can just pull up the wire. I get the padlock because they say that there's been people that come on the property and try to steal stuff, so that makes sense. But apparently when Dylan would show up, not only did he not lock it, but I guess he would just leave the gate down, and that would piss off Brenner. And from what we understand, Brenner had a short fuse. If you were to do a 180 from where we're at, you've got the sun tunnels to the south of us. Apparently, Brenner, because people would want to come see the sun tunnels, and I'll just show you the road here. Did I cancel my Google Earth? I did. My apologies. Show this real quick. Let me just show you the road in the sun tunnels here. So you got the sun tunnels here. You've got this road right here. Back it up. So that fence that we were just looking at is right here. Some people, especially for the first time looking for the sun tunnels, when you come down Pilot Mountain Road right here, you'll see a sign that says sun tunnels. It tells you to go this way. So you would go this way here. And if you weren't knowing what to look for, you could easily miss the sun tunnels because they're not that big. And honestly, don't think there's a sign right here. I could be wrong. So you almost have to know to like take a right. And I could easily see people thinking, oh, you got a fork in the road, and some people going left and thinking the sun tunnels are this way. And then we've heard Brenner say that he would, threaten and shoot at people. So just kind of shows the logic behind Brenner and his short fuse. And then we heard that, he's somewhat of a drinker. So could have been a combination of things. And then you've got a 19-year-old kid who's kind of running the business type thing, and like the boss man, and he's just a kid. And I could see how that would kind of rub someone like Jim the wrong way, and we've heard that Dylan was kind of cocky, and could easily, maybe rub Brenner the wrong way for sure. Oops. Oh, Candace said Brenner moved the grain shed forward because Dylan had backed it in too far and hit one of Brenner's gates. And I do remember hearing something about that. I think was that in Duty Ron's interview? That's interesting. That could also be part of the catalyst to, that just all these little things building up. Interesting. Yeah, I have not had a chance to listen to that interview, but thank you, Plain Jane. There was one question for Steve I wanted to get. Oh, that's very sweet. Great to see two of the most respectful and uncensored true crimers in one place. Hi from Australia, first live. That's awesome.
Thank you for those kind words.
Thank you so much. And thank you for becoming a member. There's one that I saw Steve and I wanted to get to. Okay, I think that's it. Ask Steve, would or could he work for the Dylan Rounds case if he was hired?
Everything I do is volunteer work. Of course, I do a lot of work confidential, but I most certainly look at, as I progress on one of my new avenues I'm doing, I'm working code cases for individuals. And of course, I do that. I try to do the true crime or the cold case work, just like what a land-based version of what the Adventures with a Purpose does for water searches. Everything's voluntary. Doesn't cost the families or victims anything. And, just try to be respectful and see if we can't help people. And that's what I've re-entered this world of the web sleuth world of trying to do. But most certainly, I've never made contact, never attempted to make contact with them. There should be some really good people that with the FBI and everything handling this case and doing it properly. Excuse me. Not so much for some of the local LE. I think they've got a pretty bad reputation. But most certainly, if there's ever anybody or anyone that wants me to look at anything, or if the family ever needs me to, I most certainly would never turn anyone away from that needs my help.
Yeah, that's amazing. Absolutely amazing. This is from week 2. We were out there, and this is just south of the grain shed. And I can't remember. This might be Kevin Bibbins' area. I'm not sure. Or it's this other one over here. This is kind of crazy setup, but I don't want to show too much because. But that's a pretty cool setup, though.
A prepper. Okay.
Yeah.
You just about have to be a prepper to live out there.
Yeah. So, okay. That was week 2. Anyway, yeah, so much footage. So so Brenner's next court date is the 10th, the 3rd of October. Definitely got to keep an eye out for that one. And so we will, let me just see if there's any more quick questions that we do. Jody C. Steve, do you think it's possible Dylan tried to hide behind the dirt mound from Angry Jim?
Absolutely possible. I mean, it not only what you can hide behind is also could be concealment that he's trying to get away from. That if there's something or that's occurring that he doesn't want to, um, um, I've been in firefights myself, and getting behind a mound of dirt would be what I would do if. So I don't know if that's the case or not. It could be, or it could be from someone trying to hide him. There's most certainly that's a possibility.
Yeah. Just one last look at that mound of dirt. Yeah, very interesting.
I mean, Chris has been there. He knows. He's seen it, and there's so much speculation why those boots were there, and that is a question that if you're trying to frame somebody, you wouldn't do it 400 feet away. You'd be putting them closer to the suspect's house, but like I said, the post-offender behavior and everything explains a lot about where those boots were behind that mound. That someone may have disposed of the body and then came across the boots and said, "Okay, I've got to separate myself from these items." It doesn't mean that the body and the boots were there both at the same time, but it is a possibility.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Brittany, for becoming a member. You are so awesome. Thank you so much. And let me knock these out real quick, and then there's a question for you. Let me do Tom's, and I'll get to your question, Kevin. Is it possible that they had already found him and that the information has not been released?
I believe the family would have been notified, or that would have come out. I don't think that's a secret that you could keep.
Yeah. So, and to add to that, since obviously I've been out there now 5 times, since between the 4th time and this last time, they've updated the flyers, and they've actually posted them like in all the stores and everything with the attention hunters. And so I don't think they would go and make all these, flyers if they had already found his remains. Let me get one more question here from Kevin Price. Steve, do you think there's anything about this case so far that would completely eliminate the possibility that Dylan just took off voluntarily, disappear?
Well, that's where the victimology would come in. That when law enforcement did and the family, I mean, most certainly the relationship of how often Dylan called and those final days, and what did he do for months, and what birthday parties or what family events that he would never miss, and what relationship, he called his grandmother the morning of. So, and for whatever reason, or did he miss dial because of he was driving the truck? Don't know, but the victimology would most certainly explain that, and the mere mentioning by the FBI that this is a homicide case pretty well secludes and excludes a lot of possibilities, because those are not easy words to reach if that possibility existed.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's, I hate to say it. I mean, of course, we would wish that he was off somewhere.
Absolutely. I hope he is. I hope it all comes, and it is. But he created, that would be a relief on everyone. But like I said, the FBI don't reach that decision of releasing information about a homicide unless there's strong evidence of something happening on those properties.
One more good question. Well, there's a lot. Everybody's got some great questions, honestly. Milo says, could there be a reason law enforcement isn't talking about this case? Why no presser? That has just been one thing that they have been like, and I can see that's the frustration with the family is there's just no transparency. I mean, look at the Kylie Rodney case. I mean, they were doing pressers almost daily. They were they had a Facebook group where they're letting you know how many resources they were using. And this is just a complete opposite. This is a mess.
Some departments have great public relations officers that go out there and release information. They have a well-designed plan of action of how they're going to address missing persons, homicides, and some of them have absolutely no clue how to handle press or communicate. I've seen them all. Which one is this? Most certainly, you see that probably the second one because the family's unhappy. And with it, that's been mishandled since the beginning. And then they were happy for a while, but now they're unhappy again. And I understand why. You know, you're missing a child. And what does it take to get focused that we need to find my child? And I understand that.
Yeah. Thanks, Tom. And I only thought that because mom calmed down. Forget what your original one is, because of possibly leaving. Was that his original one? Voluntarily leaving.
Yeah, I think that was the last one related to yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, it was. It's possible that Derry found him. That's what it was. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think they would, especially knowing that all these people have been out there, you know, continuing to go out there daily. I think that would be kind of a big mistake.
That's a great.
Yeah, that shows you how.
That's exactly what I was talking about. That post-offender separation of a crime of behavior, that if something happened at the grain shed from where you saw where they were searching to this location for a possible first staging of separation of crime of body versus the offender, that's a great image.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to get to two more, and then we're going to switch over to the Delphi. There's just some big break. To me, I think it's big breaking news. I'm surprised no one's talking about it.
I'm shocked.
There's just so much going on. Holy cow. Where to go? That's a good question. I'm sorry, I'm trying to find it. There we go. I think this is it. Okay. Steve, what would make the FBI and law enforcement turn it into a homicide case instead of a missing person?
As they, like I said, when the FBI finally made their move or were requested to come in and start conducting what they did, that if they brought in, say, canines, and you had a canine dog that alerted on a location, then they would bring in an additional canine. If that dog alerted, and then you start doing forensic testing, and you start doing soil sample collections, and you send all this because at time of death, and certain things can occur in the manner of death. It depends on what type of manner of death it is. But when that body's on the ground, and like I said, I don't want to get too explicit of what can happen. But if those dogs alert, and then they do the forensics and they find whatever body fluids that they locate, and the tests come back and results come back as possibly that it is a homicide, that's what would lead to it, that they have some type of forensic evidence that says this is where Dylan died, and so, or possibly died. And And so we have to look at it from that standpoint. What that evidence is, don't know, but it's strong enough to make the FBI say homicide.
Yeah, I agree. And then, like I said, I heard the locals. Locals don't talk much anymore. At least the ones that I talked to, just because they kind of got attacked on other channels, unfortunately. But anyway, she was a sweet lady. She is a sweet lady. But she has a 19-year-old son, and of course, so she fears for her kid, and she lives just right there. So, but anyway, she said that they'd seen them put crime scene tape up, and that was during the second week when they went out there. So I think they, in my opinion, it's a good possibility they did find at least one of the crime scenes or some kind of something where something went down. So let me get to two more real quick here. Thank you, Tom, man. You are awesome, buddy. Steve, is FBI only involved because of the state-to-state possibility? So with the two states working because it's close to the border?
It could be, or just law enforcement can request them to step in for, is there a chance of abduction? Most certainly. And so they can look at it from that standpoint to, law enforcement, they have, whereas they can come in and they have the resources, and most certainly they, I've never ever spoke to an FBI agent that if you asked for something or if you needed an opinion or if you needed help, that they wouldn't offer it or give it.
Yeah. Emo Jam, $20. Thank you so much. You guys are so awesome. You guys are amazing. Hi, Chris and Steve. Thank you for all your hard work on these cases. And yeah, just a quick shout out to Steve. He is going to be coming this October. He's going to be helping some families that have cold cases where they just not getting any help anywhere else. Steve obviously is former law enforcement detective. He has some experience in many areas, and you're going to be doing some forensic testing for these families.
Yes, I've got I've got researchers, which I have to reach out and appreciate all the researchers that everything from the Cyclops systems that we work on to a database of all the missing and murdered children to that we're going to start traveling in October. I've got about a 2,000-2,500-mile round trip scheduled to meet with 3 different families that have lost loved ones that are cold cases now. And some of them hopefully will be able to process some evidence that's still available that law enforcement, that they would feel better if it would was tested independently and or looked at. And that's what I'm going to do. Look at it and see if it is of anything that could be valuable to the case, and if so, of course, turn it over to law enforcement, let them finish it up.
Yeah. What was the 3 circles on said photo? So I know 2 of them. I'm not sure about the other one. Oh, the one is circling the grain shed. The other 2 is where they found each boot. So I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that. But yeah, so I'm sorry, I closed that out, but maybe I still have it. Let me close these real quick and get caught up. I think I closed it, but yeah. So those 3 circles were where the boots were at. Close this up here. Let me get rid of this. Geneva, Cordoba, thank you so much. You guys are so awesome. Thank you for all the updates, Chris. Thank you. It's an honor and a pleasure. You guys are so amazing. I couldn't do it without the community. You guys are so awesome. What's up to Black Dove? He's in the house. That's awesome. Okay, so all right, so yeah. We are going to quickly, because, I usually try to keep this to an hour and a half, but I thought just because for those that are familiar with the Delphi case, there's just been a lot going on. And unfortunately, with the Kindly Rodney case and Dylan Rounds kind of overshadowing this, I'm surprised not everybody's covering this right now, because this is huge. Because could be leading to something that's going on, an active investigation to find some kind of evidence that could lead to one of the biggest unsolved murders of 2 girls.
Children, babies.
Yeah.
13 years of age.
Yeah. And I'm just going to just for those that may be new to the case, just a quick little timeline real quick. But you've got these 2 young girls here, Abby and Libby. They, on February 13th of 2017, decided to go to the Monon High Trail. They were only going to be there for about an hour. Then their father was going to pick them up. And when the father showed up, the girls were not there and at the meeting point. And so they put together, obviously they called law enforcement. They put together a search team. They looked for these poor girls at this Monon High Trail. They couldn't find them that night. And then they resumed the search early that next day. And they would eventually find the girls the next day on Valentine's Day, the next day, February 14th. They were found brutally murdered. And what makes this case so unique is not only do you have video evidence of the killer, you have audio evidence of the killer as well. And it's just such a unique case to have not only audio, but video. And they still have not solved this case after 5 years later. But now there have been some developments that may be related to this case. And so we'll play this here in just a second. Let me just quickly. Delphi. Yeah, exactly, Tom. Man. Thanks, buddy, for the $5. So one of the girls was smart enough to pull out her phone when they were crossing this bridge. When they get to the bridge, it's basically kind of like a dead end. And then you would just turn around, go back across the bridge. But this old man, or well, I should say old man, but this man that kind of caught their attention, Libby pulled out her phone and was smart enough to capture him. Now, all we get is just a 1-second clip that loops over and over. But this is the killer. We call him Bridge Guy, or BG. And I'm going to go ahead and play this article here. Oh, actually, I can't do it that way. You're not going to be able to hear it. So let's do it this way. Delphi, and this is one here. Okay, now we heard. Akuma, yes, that is true. In my opinion, how could you say that video of the man is the actual killer? That is true. We don't know 100%. Law enforcement has come out and said that they believe he is the killer. So that's basically why I say that is law enforcement has come out after, I think it was during the second year press conference, and basically said this is the killer. So this is really just repeating what 2 weeks. And as a matter of fact, now they took yesterday off, but on August 8/30, August 30, they came out with a K9 unit for the first time. Then they took the 31st off for whatever reason. And then today, confirmed by locals that they had that K9 unit out there. And I understand K9 units can actually detect electronics. Steve?
Oh, yeah. I was taking notes. I'm sorry.
You're good. You're good.
But most certainly, I mean, canines, with right handlers, they're skilled in so many different disciplines that they can just about find anything from, like I said, bombs to guns to bodies to, whatever devices, electronics. I'm sure there's certain solders and metals that's involved that they can sense also.
Wow. Tom Ann says they shut down 2 dams. Wow. 2 dams and diverted the river to drop levels for the search. I looked that up on DNR website to verify. That is huge. Because I was wondering, because I was looking at the average levels from feet, and it's usually, let's see, do I have it here? Anyway, they're like 8 to, oh gosh, I don't want to guess, but yeah, they're definitely a lot higher than what they're saying. No, that's not it. But yeah, I had it somewhere. But yeah, that is interesting because yeah, it looks like they're just in a couple of inches of water right now.
Yeah, and when you look at the evidence that points between the person that catfished Libby and Abby, which is that sexual predator, Keegan Klein, or Keegan, or how they pronounce it, that he contacted the victims, he catfished them. Like I say, he's a sexual predator, and then the morning of, he contacts them, and then also the same day he searches for a service station, the Marathon station. That's a mile, 1.36 miles from the murder scene. Yeah. And now they're doing a search that they divert the river within a mile or so of his home. It most certainly looks like there's going to be some movement in the Delphi case.
Yeah. We don't know 100% if it's related to Keegan Klein's case or the Delphi murders, but I don't see why the hell they've got him pinned to the wall. I mean, he's admitted more or less in the transcripts. Why would they care to get any more CSAM evidence on him? I mean, what are the,
Yeah, but just the searches and the odds. I mean, Keegan Klein lives 36 miles away from the murders, and you catfish these 2 victims, and then you contact on the morning of the murders, and then you find out that the same day of the murders that he's looking up a service station in the same town that they murdered, and he's 36 miles away. We're starting to look at that. There's a lot of stuff that's circumstantial, but it shows that most certainly something that everyone should look at.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It is that I have to be careful what I say on YouTube because YouTube will flag videos. They don't like certain words, especially that word right there. I can't say.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh no, no, I'm talking about him. He's saying, and I fully understand what Elsa Doodle is saying. But us YouTubers have to be careful. We can't say like assault, like. Sex.
I didn't see what he said. I'm sorry. I don't know what it was.
Oh, he says, please don't call it CP, call it abuse with child in front of it. But yeah, anyway, you kind of learn on YouTube. There's certain words you can't say, or they flag it. They don't like that. So, but I agree with what you're saying. It is abuse. But unfortunately, freedom of speech on YouTube is you have to kind of work around words. So please take no offense. But I totally agree. That is what it is. And I hope he burns in hell for what he's done. Tom Ann says they need to and may have hired an engineer that understands river flow and most likely places to find these items. I believe it's a weapon. Could be. I did look into a guy that was doing, so he's a geologist. And here, actually, while we're kind of talking about this, and we'll wrap this up here in about 10 minutes here. I might have to let this dog out real quick here. It's going to bark. So here, give me 1 second. Oh. All right, dogs got locked out. So yeah, here they are searching. This was, I think this was recorded by a local a couple of days ago, but yeah, a geologist was doing some research and said that something like a weapon or a phone, it's a good possibility it wouldn't travel too far, depending on this current. He did some kind of evaluations and stuff, and said that there's a good possibility that just with his research that as long as it's something that's got a little bit of weight to it, it shouldn't go too far. So hopefully, whatever they're looking for, they do find. So, but let me just see what's people are saying. Any final thoughts on any of this?
No, like I said, I expect that, that's the most exciting news I've seen from what Murder Sheets have released. And so I'm looking forward to, hopefully that we'll have some movement, and because whoever the murderer is, they're still out there somewhere.
Yeah. It's really tough to see that it's Kagan, as far as him being bridge guy. I just don't think that's possible. But his father, maybe he's a little tall, but then again, he doesn't have the voice for it. It's just so weird. But let's just hope. The other thing with the Anthony Shots account that this Kagan Klein was using, law enforcement did feel like that there was somebody else using the Anthony Shots account. I think
there's some type of Dropbox that they were that other people that's how he got funds. He would create those accounts.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I did an update video. If you guys haven't checked that out, just basically kind of what we just covered. But and of course, I'm going to keep an eye on that because it's huge. Like I said, it's been a long time since we've seen any kind of active search that may be related to the Delphi murders. It has been quiet for many years, and that poor family needs answers. So 3 or more involved. I think maybe 2. I think if there was 3 or more, I think somebody would have talked by now, but that's just my opinion. What do you think, Steve, as far as how many involved?
Well, like I said, from the developments, and you have control issues that, anytime you have more than one victim, you have to look at there's going to be multiple offenders because you have control issues. And if you look at it from the issues of the victims being catfished and what the motive is, and until you know what that motive is, there's so many. That's what's so confusing about this case, of which way does it go, and how many people are involved. Is it one offender that may be a repeat offender? The way it's looking at now that they've kept open this avenue of the Kleins as far as catfishing, and if they are involved and the Kleins facilitated this murder, then of course you have more than one. You have a conspiracy, and is that the avenue law enforcement's looking at? Most certainly they're looking at it, but is that the one that did cause their deaths? We right now don't know.
Interesting. Tom in $5 here. Awesome. One other thing I found interesting: Chadwell address. It was a big one when Chadwell was introduced. This bridge is on the way from Kagan Klein's house. Yeah, 67 South. Yeah. Interesting, but yeah, Kagan Klein's house. It's just 6 minutes from his house. So
yeah, it's absolutely amazing the coincidences and common information between everything for him getting out and then the search happening or being released to the custody of Indiana State Police.
Yeah. If I didn't come until June 16th for Dylan, or basically a victim advocate, the local corrupt law enforcement is lead. Yeah, they need a change, and we're gonna put some stuff on my community post here soon to help the family get the the help they need for because they obviously they want a new agency taken over for the Dylan Rounds case, and justifiably so, because clearly they botched it from the beginning, and now just everything is kind of on borrowed time here. So, but I'm gonna still try to do everything I can. There's still some areas that I still would like to go back out and search, and
Hopefully one day I'll get out there with you. Hopefully it's done before I ever get out there.
yeah, it's gonna be tough now. Just if Dylan was murdered and it was during the first week or that Saturday, the remains at this point would be really tough to find, unfortunately. But we'll do whatever we can, and just pray for the family. And like I said, we will put some stuff in the community post maybe tomorrow or something. I think the family wants people to reach out to a certain number or fill out a certain letter to send out in the mail to them. So we'll figure that out, and what's the easiest for people to if they want to help support that. So we'll definitely do that. And yeah, Steve has his own channel. He's going to be going out and helping people because he's a former detective. He's going to be doing some forensic testing here in October, which is amazing. Going to help try to solve some cold cases that no one else will help. So it's amazing.
So all we can do is try, and like I said, the families deserve no less than somebody looking at it best we can. And if we get, and that's all that we can do is try to bring closure.
Yes, definitely. And so anyway, if anybody sent anything PayPal or something, I will shut you out in the next video. We'll be going live tomorrow, and I will have the new video. I've got the new pet video. Unfortunately, I have to change the music, so I could play it tonight, but I'll have it out for tomorrow. So if you set pets in, they'll be most likely in there tomorrow night. So Steve, thank you so much for coming on.
It's been an honor. I hope that we've kept his name and trying to do what's best for the family, and I hope it does have an impact. And I appreciate everything you've done going out there and all the effort you put into this.
Oh, it's an honor. And thank you, mods, and just thank you, everybody, for taking the time to watch this show. You guys are amazing, and just couldn't be here without you guys. I love you guys. And
just throw me in the back and do whatever you got to do there. And
all right, buddy.
I've got a couple questions for you after the show.
Sure. Yeah, I'll put you backstage. And just once again, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have a wonderful night. We'll be back on here tomorrow. And if you emailed me, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get caught up on my emails. So hopefully I'll get caught up by tonight or tomorrow. So with that said, I am going to play the outro. And I love you guys, and we will see you tomorrow.